You're watching Market View, the Tuesday edition here on Eswatini TV. Sibugo Samaswati, thank you so much for choosing us this afternoon. My name is Sifiso Ngumalo. Very happy to be your host this afternoon as we track the latest economic developments happening around the Kingdom of Eswatini, of course, influenced by all the business decisions made by the people at the forefront. Today, our key focus is going to be the story around the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund that was established exactly 16 years ago today, which has done incredible work in terms of supporting MSMEs in the Kingdom of Eswatini through funding their unique projects. We want to drill into some of the challenges that they've experienced as well during the quest, as well as some of the opportunities therein that are yet to be explored. MSMEs continue to be the lifeblood of any economy around the world, so it is indeed a critical conversation. But before that, we will of course take you to the United States in New York, where the United General Assembly is underway this week. Of course, a delegation that is led by His Majesty King Mswati has started making certain commitments under different, of course, developments that are being made there by world leaders. We take that lens as we look at some of those pledges that have been made there. 85 million emalangeni in funding that has been made as a catalytic funding from the government of Eswatini. This is towards the Africa Strategic Investment Alliance. So we will look at that and then we'll bring it home, where we want to look at the first ever sustainable agriculture indaba that focuses this time around on agroecology for food systems resilience, as well as climate change. And of course, per usual, we will cap off the show by decoding the markets of the day with our economist, Sanellis Bia, who's ready to join us virtually as we end the show. But let's kick things off with our business news.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.sz. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
All right, welcome back. On our first story, we take you to New York, where His Majesty King Mswati III has announced about 85 million emalangeni that is in catalytic funding from the government of Eswatini to the African Strategic Investment Alliance. This is to enable the Asia, and by Asia we mean Africa Strategic Investment Alliance. It is a structure to support small business, youth and women in the kingdom. The announcement was delivered on His Majesty's behalf by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Neil Reichenberg, during the launch of the Africa Strategic Investment Alliance Global Partners Platform in New York. His Majesty further pledged to engage African traditional leaders and heads of state and government under the African Union to join in supporting this continental initiative. Now, the Africa Strategic Investment Alliance was born in order to make a difference in financial landscape by creating a special purpose vehicle to ring-fence financing to address the huge SME financing gap of over 5 billion emalangeni, which is per year across the African continent. Those are some of the visuals for your appreciation of the convening of all the partners as well as the leaders there when Honorable Neil Reichenberg articulated that pledge by His Majesty. Moving along, the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade warns the public about false grant opportunities that are circulating online. The ministry clarifies that no grant opportunities targeting entrepreneurs, miners or farmers have been issued at this time. In a press statement, the Principal Secretary, Melusi Masugu, says there is a misleading message claiming to offer such grants. Purportedly from the ministry, he states that this message did not originate from official ministry channels. The PS says the page disseminating this information, which is labeled Ministry of Commerce Eswatini, is not an authentic or official representation of the ministry. He says the correct name is the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, urging the public to verify information through official ministry platforms. He states that legitimate announcements will only be shared via the ministry's verified website as well as its social media accounts. Now, the public has been urged to report suspicious communications to the ministry for clarification. We move along. Agroecology, an approach that integrates ecological principles into agriculture to promote environmentally friendly, resilient and sustainable food systems, is rising as a key solution for sustainable farming. Pelum Association Eswatini is hosting the first ever sustainable agriculture indaba with a focus on agroecology for food systems resilience and climate change. With support from the European Union, COSPE, TAVI and others, the conversation is set to explore how agroecology can boost food security.
In Eswatini, about 70% of the country populace lives in rural areas where agriculture is the main livelihood activity. Despite the sector being one of the strategic focus areas through which the region can foster economic growth, alleviate poverty, and eradicate inequality, the sector's performance compared to its potential has been below average in recent years. The agriculture sector faces complex challenges that threaten food security and sovereignty and sustainable development, of course. Climate change has intensified droughts, floods, and unpredictable weather patterns, leading to lower agricultural productivity. Land degradation and loss of agrobiodiversity have further strained the environment, while market access issues and poor infrastructure have limited farmers' ability to benefit meaningfully from agricultural value chains. We note that despite the growing recognition of agroecology in food systems, livelihoods and climate adaptation for agrarian communities and in economies in Africa, agroecology remains less supported by public policies and under-financed. It cannot be overemphasized why then this event recognizes and discusses the potential of agroecology in improving the livelihoods of smallholder farmers and promoting the sustainability and resilience of their farming systems through the application of ecological land use practices. This explains the event's very theme, agroecology for food system resilience and climate justice.
Pelham Regional Board Chairperson says stakeholders should work together to increase knowledge of agroecology.
I call upon all stakeholders, governments, researchers, civil society, and our international partners to join hands with us in scaling agroecology. Let us invest in research that values indigenous knowledge. Let us strengthen policies that protect seed sovereignty. Let us nurture youth and women as the leaders of tomorrow's food systems.
Gabriela from Sahi Foundation shares the importance of agroecology in food sustainability.
Agroecology is not simply a set of farming methods or techniques. It is a holistic approach that combines science, indigenous wisdom, and social values. It encourages us to work with nature, not against it. Ladies and gentlemen, agroecology is not about going backwards. It is about moving forward, wisely, without rushing, or to try to get a quick fix.
The World Bank views agroecology as a critical approach to transforming food systems by promoting resilience, boosting productivity, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions through sustainable, climate-smart agriculture. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Manzini.
All right, straight to our Enterprise Watch segment now. We have the Chief Executive of the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund waiting for a critical conversation. All right, the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund, which has been actively conducting outreach programs to educate young people on how to access as well as to benefit from the fund since its establishment around 2009. A fund that has made a significant impact on empowering the youth. Today, we aim to understand how the fund has influenced young entrepreneurs, the current status of repayments, especially considering previous challenges as well as the ways in which the youth are benefiting. Joining us via our Zoom video link is the Chief Executive, Mandla Ngambule. He's going to shed light on some important questions around the program, as well as provide an update on the fund's overall performance. Msutu, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. 2009 is essentially not yesterday. It's a significant time. And if you really think about it, if you look at the vision, the mission, or let's say the mandate of the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund, one that is very, very critical, I think it's important that we start our conversation by establishing an understanding within that period from 2009 to 2025 this year, you know, how you see the fund supporting youth entrepreneurs, their businesses. What has been the measurable impact there, the survival rate, as well as, you know, the business creation therein?
Thank you very much. Greetings to you and your viewers. Thank you very much for affording us this opportunity to share in terms of the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund performance since inception. As you have rightly alluded to, the fund was established in 2009 by His Majesty the King, and that was phase one. Because we are running two portfolios for the fund. The first capital was 10 million in Malangeni, which benefited over 725 young people at the time. And then they started a lot of businesses, which some of them are still surviving. And then you'll also recall that the fund was halted in 2015, and then it was restarted, commenced its operation in 2018 after some unfortunate incidences where there were some reported or alleged misappropriation of funds or mismanagement of funds. Since 2018 to date, we have seen a growth in terms of the young people taking the fund. I would say 2018 to 2020, in terms of total disbursement, we saw a growth up to over 12 million, benefiting over 215 young people in that period. However, with these unfortunate incidences of the pandemics, I think you recall we had in 2020, the pandemics, COVID-19, and then which was followed by the social unrest in 2021. I think that period basically affected our beneficiaries. We conducted a study of the 215 young people. At the time, we noted that most of those businesses were closed. I think that one had a negative impact in our businesses. So some of them were still currently trying to resuscitate those businesses. We are working with the young people to try to see how can we come up with a tailored loan product to support them to resuscitate the businesses. And I would say out of the 215, I would say 60% of those were impacted negatively by those two events. So, but since 2021 to date, we have seen a huge increase as well in terms of numbers. I would say we have seen a huge appetite of the loan uptake of the fund. Last year, I think that was our highest performance in terms of the total loan applications, that between 1st April 2024 to 31st March 2025 this year, which is our fiscal year. We've received over 630 loan applications, which out of that, almost 120 benefited. Out of that, which is basically represents, in terms of loan disbursements, was around close to 5 million for the very first time. That was our highest, which basically confirms or is evidence that the fund, the young people have an appetite. The fund is now visible, and with all our strategic intents we have put in place, they are basically effective. For example, I'll say we have made a number of changes in terms of reforms with our strategy, which will be coming to an end in this month, end of September 2025. We had a 3-year strategy, which was basically focusing mainly in terms of the increase on loan uptake, and also the visibility. I think you might have seen us doing a lot of marketing. So we have put those in place. One of the issues which have given us positive results is the decentralization of services, where we opened our original offices in the 4 corners of the country. In addition to that, we also had opened satellite offices, so to try to be in proximity with the young people. So even with that, we have seen that growth to say we are now close in terms of providing service, which is basically our government policy and strategy in terms of decentralization of services. That one is basically giving us the positive results. I think for now, in terms of the maybe challenges we have not, maybe coming up to the 2018 to 2025 to date, our portfolio has grown to around over 25 million to date, which is within the 5 years, which is a confirmation that the appetite is there, and the young people are basically taking up the loans to run the businesses. In terms of the challenges, I think one of the challenges, as you have rightly pointed out, is the issue of the entrepreneurship culture, which is basically lacking. And we are looking into that to say, how can we what interventions can we make in terms of capacity building, which again, is a challenge. One of the things we have tried to do is that our program is not only in dispersing the funds, we're also basically bundling the services, also providing some training, mentorship, and coaching, where we have assigned every beneficiary a mentor to support them, which we are providing in an in-house service with no cost to the beneficiaries, which is currently working. The other constraints, which I think we could have, our performance could have been much better. One of the issues we have encountered is around the issues of the loan applications forms. I think they've found that some of our requirements are very stringent, which we are currently working on. But the major issue are not the requirements. The major issue is the business, the preparation of the business plans and the cash flow projections, which is more business in terms of they lack the entrepreneurship, they lack the business acumen and the understanding. Hence now, one of the issues we have tried to do is to do some pre-application trainings where we visit all the Tinkhundlas in all the regions and have conversation, meet the young people, and train them in terms of how to complete the application forms. So hence we are looking at an increase in terms of the success rate, even from on the loan applications so far. I think so far our rate is very, very low. I have to acknowledge that, to say out of 100 applications, we only approve around 40%, which is very, very low on average. So which means the 60% mainly is because of the quality of the business plans, the cash flow, the business ideation, and other challenges. So which we have noted that let's assist them by coming close and helping them with the pre-application, especially those who are in our rural communities.
Msuthu, there was a mouthful, by the way. I do realize now we have to invite you in our sister show, Whistler Breakfast Show, for an afforded or lengthened talk time. But you mentioned quite a lot of important assertions here. 10,700,000 businesses at inception. 2015 was halted until 2018 due to mismanagement of funds. But then again, coming closer to what we have seen in the most immediate reality is that 2024 loan applications were around 630, and you do highlight that 120 people benefited, which was to the cost of 5 million emalangeni, which isn't a coincidence, by the way, considering that even His Majesty the King 2022 said because of the unemployment crisis, the youth should start businesses, and therefore these structures that you guys provide are here to remedy that situation. But I do want to ask about one challenge that I don't think you've really touched on, which is around repayment. It's normally the Achilles heel of such structures. I think me and you can agree on that. How are we looking like in terms of repayment? Are people paying back, or is the fund still wrestling with defaults?
Thank you very much for that question. We are coming from a legacy where the non-performing loans were very high, up to 80%, which means our recovery rates was around, collection rate was around 20% on an annual basis. I think one of the things we have tried, I think I would say the last 2-3 years, we have seen an improvement in terms of the collection rates I think currently we are sitting at around 48%. Last year, we closed with an average of 52%, which is an improvement if you consider in terms of our history. One of the things we have done very well was bringing some of these functions in-house. As you'll recall that we have been relying on or depending on the intermediary to carry out some of the functions. However, government, through the ministry, our parent ministry of Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs, they have basically approved with the board to say, let's bring some of these functions in our house. So we have seen improvement. We have put up a dedicated collection unit in our organization, which is collecting. The other thing we have done is to try to also educate the young people. But one of the things we have also tried to strengthen is the assessments in terms of trying to do some vetting before we never had done some pre-screening where we check with the ITC. So that has basically eliminated a number of those problems. We are seeing some improvement, but the key thing is the education, follow-up, and also being flexible and understanding the sectors these young people are operating in, to say, if you've got challenges, we are here to talk. We're open. We always come up with flexible repayment period to accommodate the young people. So there's kind of that improved relationship and openness with the beneficiaries. So I think currently I would say comfortable 50%, which was still below our target of 70% per annum.
Regardless, it's still a good improvement indeed, and hopefully it continues to improve. Tremendous work that you are doing, Msuthu, with your team, and thank you so much for your time. By the way, we will invite you to our sister program. I see that we have a lot of ground to cover. The Chief Executive of the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund. We'll go for a quick ad break, and then we'll drive straight into our market analysis. All right, welcome back. Our market analysis now, a quick view as we have just under 4 minutes to go through them. And of course, we want to start by looking at global markets, particularly Wall Street. What is the numbers under the United States markets showing us today? We are seeing that Wall Street is edging higher. The Dow added 0.44% there, and the S&P 500 climbed by 0.44%. I beg your pardon, the Dow added 0.14%, S&P 500 0.44%, and the Nasdaq led the way up 0.70%, driven by the strength in the tech stocks. We did learn about the news yesterday that NVIDIA is now investing so aggressively in OpenAI in the US, and that makes for an interesting story and indeed reflected on these numbers that we are seeing. And then we move over to Europe now, where we are again going to see some modest gains. Starting off is the FTSE 100, which has barely moved, while the DAX rose by 0.21%, and the CAC 40 in France advanced by 0.62%, helped by industrial as well as luxury shares. We move to Asia now. Sentiment there was a little weaker. We will start by looking at the Hang Seng Index in Asia. And there we are. We see the Nikkei 225 first, which, of course, we are seeing the Nikkei closer to home, I beg your pardon, the Hang Seng rather slipping by 0.70% as property concerns are weighing, and the Shanghai Composite dipping 0.18%. We are seeing flat numbers on the Nikkei, no current updates, but we want to move closer to home now as we look at the JSE All Share Index, and the numbers there gained by 0.31%, and the Eswatini All Share Index holding steady, just juxtaposed, of course, with the very same numbers there. And then we go to commodities now, where gold jumped by a positive 1.14% as investors sought safely, while Brent crude steadied at 67.20%. By the way, for gold, that is a new all-time high as it continues to be the safe haven with the, obviously the uncertainty with every other stock. Everybody wants to be safe, and it makes sense why it is at an all-time high. And then, of course, we want to move closer now and look at currencies as we juxtapose the Lilangeni, which is firming slightly against both the US dollar as well as the euro, trading at 17.30 and 20.42 respectively. Market analysis makes the end there, and this certainly is the end of our Market View, the Tuesday edition. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.